Welcome back to another episode of Last One Standing on the LoudMouth MMA Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kyle Steele, and again, we're another episode down now in Last One Standing. Let me introduce our wonderful panel, then I'll give you a brief overview of the rules. This is the, I believe, third episode now of this new iteration, so I'll cut everyone some slack and we'll re-explain rules. To my gents on the podcast currently, before I introduce you, just remember, if you're not talking, please mute on your end so we don't get a lot of background noise. All right, starting with the man, the myth, the legend, Keith Schillen. Keith, welcome back. Please tell us where we can find you.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Keith Schillen MMA. My last name is spelled Schillan. But that said, Kyle, I just want to give you props because we're really flowing right now, and you're a really good host. And it's really nice to have a host who does a show like this or any show like this where the guy's professional, he's good at what he does. Because we really struggled with that for a long time to find a host that could do as good of a job. So it's so nice to finally have found the person who knows how to do it.
Well, Keith, I really appreciate the praise. Moving on down, we have that joke will come clear in just a moment here. We have Sean Ihaz, who has returned to the network to grace us with his presence, the DFS sniper himself. Sean, where can we find you, buddy?
Get me on Twitter at sniper_DFS. A lot of DraftKings content there. That's what I kind of specialize in. And I won't go into whatever soliloquy that was. I'll just point out that stuff like that is why people have a hard time handling Keith in large doses.
And the third in our panel, not to be overshadowed by the first two, we have Riley Contek. Hello, Riley.
What's up, Kyle? Looking forward to another most likely last place finish in the show.
Listen, every time I would guest on this show, on the last one, I don't think I was ever the first one out, but I never made it to the finals. There was absolutely no way. And I wonder if the man who wouldn't let me go to the finals will make it to the finals tonight. I guess we'll see how that works out because he is on the show. Mike Heck coming back to the network. Well, not officially. Guesting on the network, I should say. Couldn't stay away from us, and I totally get it. We are the best network in MMA podcasting. We got Mike Heck. Mike, tell us where to find you, buddy.
It's good to be back. You can find me on Twitter at MikeHeck_JR. You can follow my work at MMAfighting.com. And I don't know if I need to call a podiatrist or a proctologist to remove my foot from Keith's ass when this whole night is over and all said and done. So happy to be home, happy to be back, and let's do this damn thing.
I love how much shade is being thrown, and the episode has barely started. This is where it should be. Mike, I do want to say welcome back. Again, we said this as you were going out the door, but now that you're back on, we're all super proud of you and happy for you in your new endeavor with MMA fighting. And you were a truly amazing host of this show. I tried to live up to the standards you set. We'll see what happens. Let's get into the show. Let me give you a brief explanation again of the rules. For the first round, there's 3 rounds essentially. The first round will be 3 questions. Each panel member will get 45 seconds to answer the question, and there are automatic rebuttals at the end of everybody. So you don't have to ask for a rebuttal. We will do an automatic rebuttal of another 45 seconds is fine for each person. So if you don't get to your entire answer, don't worry about it. You'll get a chance to come back around and maybe attack somebody's point if you need to. The second round is going to be the 4th question. It's going to be 1v1 and 1v1. So as we go through the first 3 questions, I'm going to score them and then seed them. So 1 will go up against 4 and 2 will go up against 3. The winner of that moves on to the finals. That is our third and final round. For the second round, you get 60 seconds. For the third round, you get 90 seconds. That's the final round. It's 1v1, final question, and at the end of that, we choose a winner. Remember, guys, again, please try your best to not go over the time, and also mute your mics if you're not talking. Everybody's doing a really good job so far. Without further ado, let's get to our first question of the night. With UFC 249 officially off the books, do you give Dana credit for trying, or do you think it was a bad move to try at all? Also, will the attempt at doing a fight card so early affect the UFC's image moving forward, good or bad? So, For this question, we will start with our guest, Mike Heck. Mike, 45 seconds on the clock.
I mean, to your first question, I guess it depends on whose perspective you're looking at, right? Like if you're a fighter on the roster and you've been putting in a long camp, losing hundreds and thousands of dollars and needing to weigh in and compete to recoup some of those losses, then of course Dana White deserves a lot of credit. However, it's amazing what hindsight and thinking can do to these scenarios, right? Like, look at me, for example. Like, I'm a guy who started on this new adventure, anxious enough as it was, and suddenly, as we're getting closer and closer to the start date, everything is getting shut down. We all assumed that the UFC would be doing the same thing, but they didn't. And with that, there's been no shortage of news with the John Jones thing, Habib going back to Russia. You know, he's out of the Ferguson fight. Then we get Ferguson Gaethje. So for me, selfishly, Dana's stubbornness has actually kept me super busy throughout all of this. So we're starting to feel a little bit more thus far this week. But in terms of the human and relevancy side of the table, it's hard to say that Dana should get credit for trying to move forward while everything else is shut down.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, everybody will get a chance to rebuttal, so no worries about that. And Riley, 45 seconds, my friend.
I give Dana White a lot of credit for trying to keep this on because, like I've said in the past couple of weeks, that, you know, the fans are clamoring for entertainment and he was doing this for the fans. Obviously, he's doing it for a monetary issue as well because the UFC does need money. You know, and kind of going with what Mike said, if you're a fighter or anybody who was willing, you know, they were consenting to actually do these fights, you know, obviously this sucked for you, and Dana trying to get it to happen is a good thing. If you're a smug MMA journalist from a lot of these websites that people frequent, but there's a lot of talentless hacks, you were probably pretty upset that he was trying to do it in the first place. And then when it was canceled, you wrote an article about how awesome it was that the 249 got closed down for reasons not specified. But I'm not trying to bury the fighters because, you know, they need to make a living, but you tried getting it canceled, so you're a part of the problem.
I have muted so many, and not even because I agree or disagree, but I've muted so many of the negative people that exist in the Twitter sphere, and we could probably right here name 5 of them off the top of our head, but I finally went ahead and muted them. I'm tired of the negativity. Again, whether I agree or disagree with what happened is irrelevant. I'm just tired of the negativity. Let's just have fun. It's a fun sport. Sean, 45 seconds, my friend.
Dana White should absolutely get a credit. This is, if whatever bad PR is out there, give it 2-3 news cycles, and you know what? It's going to go away. He was trying to grow the sport. Give him all props for that. All props in the world for that. And Mike, you're going to be plenty busy when we have 3 freaking cards a week in a couple months. Like, we're all going to be way too busy for whatever that's worth. Affect the UFC's image moving forward? Not really. Again, just a couple news cycles is going to go away. And this had humongous upside, big potential. We're talking about these fights. Can you imagine if Fight Island happens? I don't think Dana's done, guys. Uncle Dana is not at all done. I will save the last part of my answer for the rebuttal because otherwise I'm going to go way over.
Keith.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think both. I mean, a week ago we got the announced Holloway Gaethje and also the whole card. But I was the guy saying that it still wasn't going to happen and that it shouldn't happen. And I still think it shouldn't happen because we should be practicing social distancing. That says, I just view Dana as another guy that was trying to run a business that really isn't essential. I mean, I drive down the street and I see the florist open. I see the baker open. I see the dry cleaners open. I see Subway open. I mean, are these essential? No, they're not essential, but they're still open. We have, you know, if an event happened, we'd have between the fighters, the coaches, officials, everybody together, it'd probably be about 100 people that'd be affected.
10 seconds.
That says there's not 100 people going to Subway. So, no, I'm not outraged for Dana just trying to run a business like everyone else. As far as the imaging goes, I mean, we had a presidential candidate.
We just hit our 10. We got to the end of our 10.
Dude, stop cutting me off.
You'll get a chance. You'll get a
Kyle,
chance.
let me tell you this. No, let me tell you this. I'm the only reason people listen to this show. I'm the star. I'm the face of this show.
Let's move on. Mike Heck, you'll get your 45 seconds.
When you go to the press conference, you don't cut off Conor McGregor. You let him go. Like, yeah, they might have Glover Teixeira up there, and they might have, like, friggin' Mark Munoz or whoever. But you don't cut off Conor McGregor. It's the same way with this show.
I like he said stop cutting you off like that wasn't the first freaking question of the show.
Also, Keith, and I will say I cut you off because you were starting to make the second part of the question. So I said, hey, why don't you save that for your rebuttal? So I was actually helping you, so you're welcome. Mike Heck, you got 45 seconds, buddy.
You don't cut off Conor McGregor. I love when Keith gets all fired up and pissed off. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you guys said because I credit's one thing, respecting is another thing. Like, to me, there's a line to draw between credit and respect. Like, should he have done it and tried to move forward these events? Probably not. But seeing how far he got with it, you have to respect it, whether you are a negative Nancy in the MMA media or you're kind of like me and Keith who are indifferent about it. We thought it should have been postponed or canceled. But if they had gone on with it, our asses would be watching and we'd be covering it just like we should be covering it because that's our jobs.
Oh, nice. I didn't even have to give you the 10-second. Good job, buddy. Riley.
My major point from the earlier thing I was saying was this wasn't a bunch of people being forced to actually get in the cage and fight. These are people who wanted to fight. They were consenting to the fight. They knew the risks if they were going to be in that environment to take that fight, and they were still willing to do it because they wanted to get a paycheck. They wanted to entertain the fans, etc. It's not like these people were being forced. And, you know, my big thing also, and this was kind of what I mentioned earlier and not on here, but in Discord, was that I'm actually really upset that Gavin Newsom overstepped his boundaries and went to above the UFC's head and talked to ESPN and Disney and got them to cancel it as opposed to, you know, because, again, he couldn't do anything because it was on tribal land. So Gavin Newsom's on my shit list right now.
Sean, 45 on the clock.
Yeah, you know who's on my shit list? Trent Reinsmith. You hate fun. Everybody hates you. Let's just put that there. Everybody who I respect or know or like hates your guts. And you do, and you're out there, I think, just trying to get clickbait. I can't stand the opinions this guy puts out there. I can't do it. Anyone who's jumping on Dana White right now, do you forget what he's done? I saw somebody ask who likes Dana White. I do. He's grown MMA a ton, and I think he's entertaining. He says half the stuff he does just like Connor, just to get a rise out of people. And he's a smart businessman. You want to dislike his personality? Sure. I get it. But to say Dana White is bad for the UFC, go home. Like, just go home. And Keith saying the UFC 249 should have been off and all for all that stuff. Do you hate fun? Are you anti-fun?
Keith Schilling?
Well, I'm anti people dying, if you want me to ask that. Yeah. As far as the journalists, I agree with Sean. I don't like the style that some of these guys taken, but what they're saying is true, and I support what they're saying. I just don't like the style. As far as Gavin Newsom, his job is to be the governor of California, to protect the people of California, and that's what he tried doing, and he did. Now, as far as Dana in business, the reason why he's doing this is because he has to listen to Endeavor. He has to make their money. They invested huge money, and he's got to get them money back. Now, as far as the image of their sport, can it get any worse than it used to be? We had a guy that ran for president, almost was the president of the country, calling it human cockfighting, had it banned. Almost 20 years later, we have sitting presidents in the arena and on ESPN. So I don't think the image is affected.
All right, good answers, guys. That was a really, really good round. Extremely close. Moving on to the second question. With the UFC holding no events in April and not many in March, I think there was just the one card in March, and then, again, nothing scheduled for the foreseeable future, essentially. We've heard about a Fight Island. I don't know where that's going. Even if it does, I imagine it's going to take a second. So we might be looking at quite a lengthy hiatus here. So the question I have is, what fighter is going to benefit the most from a hiatus? Who's going to benefit the most of having no fights happening, so their stature isn't changing? Then who do you think this is going to affect? Did I say the most or least there? Sorry. I meant affect the least, and who does it affect the most? So that's the question. Who does having no fights, no change in anything, only time being the change, who does that affect the least, and who does that affect the most? So we will start with Riley on that question. Again, you got 45 seconds, my friend, and the clock starts now.
I think that it benefits people who would be on suspension right now. I know it was mentioned kind of when these questions were being developed that TJ Dillashaw would be someone that benefits from this because he's currently being suspended. So if nobody can fight and he's already not even allowed to fight, it doesn't really hurt him at all, if anything. In terms of, outside of that, I would say that people who are looking for a hiatus, this benefits them because not only are they on hiatus, other people are on a forced hiatus as well. So, and I believe it was the first week show or the second week show, we talked about Kevin Lee taking a year off or whatever to not take fights anymore. Well, now he doesn't have to worry about anybody else being in the gym as well because they're not really allowed to be getting in the cage anyways, and a lot of the gyms are shut down. So I think that's another person who would benefit from this. Who does not benefit? John Jones, even though he's the master.
Sean, go ahead.
So who does it benefit the most? Give me Weili Zhang. Look, that was an absolute war. I know me and Keith went at it last week about that fight, but total war. And she's got a pretty stacked couple of contenders behind her. You got Andrade, Namajunas, Tatiana Suarez, who I think is a dark horse to eventually be champion. She needs this time. She was probably going to need a year off to be right after that fight anyway. Like, there's people lined up to come after her belt, and I think just this step back, no one else is training, gives her a chance to recover and hopefully grow her legacy. I think it's good timing. Riley hitting the point. People on suspension, medical suspension, are going to benefit. Seconds. Who does it benefit the least? Alexander Volkanovski. That dude was building a lot of momentum. I liked where he was heading. A lot of good fights out there for him. Holloway, rematch Ortega, Magomed Sharipov. I want to see. And now all these we're kind of waiting on, and I really think he's going to start to decline.
Mr. Keith?
Well, I just want to say I don't think anybody gets anything positive from the pandemic. So let's just put that out there. But I understand the question. So if I have to pick someone, I'm going to go with someone who's not a dark horse because everyone's picking her to become the champion, Tatiana Suarez. Why? Because she's injured right now, and she's probably the number one contender. And what she needs to happen is she needs to heal up. And then because they can't book fights right now, Weili Zhang is not getting booked against somebody else. So that when she returns, she'll get the fight and she'll have to wait for somebody else. Now, negatively, I'd go with Daniel Cormier. The guy's 41 years old. Time is ticking against him. He's been out of competition for close to a year. And then when he comes back, there's going to be a logjam of all these pay-per-views that haven't happened. So you're going to have Habib and Tony and Adesanya and Usman and Masvidal, all these guys waiting for fights, and then that might put the heavyweight fight even further back, which is hurting a guy who's 41 years old. He needs to fight now.
Mr. Mike Heck.
Well, to build upon what Keith just said, it doesn't really benefit anybody positively or negatively. But if we are going to say positively, it benefits any of the fighters who are making really good money, right? The Connors, even the John Joneses, recent activities aside, Stipe's, the DC's, guys like that, along with the fighters who found themselves a good financial advisor or have invested their money over the years. That's kind of how I looked at this question. Who it doesn't benefit is pretty much any fighter who hasn't competed outside of their first contract or guys and gals who haven't even competed yet. So, for example, Sarah Alpar, Peter Barrett, both had fights booked, both coming off Contender Series. Neither are going to be able to recoup a good chunk of that money that they had to spend on training camps, food, preparation, things like that. But if we're looking towards individual fighters that this could benefit more than most, how about Khabib Nurmagomedov? Like, he got out of that crazy negotiation game. He went home to see his family, making sure they're okay. Now he gets to have Ramadan, gets his mind and his spirit right, and prepare to fight Ferguson or whoever in September or later on in the year. Also, didn't Conor McGregor's price just go up a little bit?
I like it. I do. I agree. I do think his price went up quite a bit. Once everything gets rolling back out, it's like they're going to have to do something. Something big has got to happen to pump some money back into the UFC. I think the eyes are going to be fine. But, I like that. I like that angle. Okay, let me, real quick, I didn't think I had to say this, but given Keith and Mike's answers, I'm not saying anyone benefits from a pandemic. That's not the nature of the question. There is a hiatus right now where no one is fighting. So the question is, who gets the benefit of that hiatus? It isn't a matter of pandemic specifically. As Keith is saying, I'm not pro COVID-19. That's not where I'm at. So
I can't believe we had to say this. Is this some PC show? We're just gonna hold hands and circle jerk. Next question. Jesus.
All right. So Riley, you get your 45 seconds.
Yeah, I don't really have a rebuttal to anything anybody said, but, kind of just thinking when people were talking about, there's going to be a logjam of title fights. Maybe not, though. Like, the next few pay-per-views might be insane. There might be 2 or 3 title fights per pay-per-view just to catch up and make sure there isn't a logjam. So you could see a pay-per-view on International Fight Week. I mean, what happens if you don't get all these champions? I'm not going to say they're going to put 5 title fights on a card, but can you imagine the caliber of fights that are going to be on Fight Week after this long hiatus of people not being able to take fights? If you're a fan, yeah, you got to wait some time. It sucks. I like watching fights every weekend. But the fights that are going to come out, the cards that are going to come out as a result of this, I can't see as anything less than stellar.
I like it. Sean.
Yeah, Riley hit on everything I wanted to say. Pretty much, like in chat, and I was going to go pretty much just rebuttaling Keith's point. I don't think DC is going to have to wait as long as we get back in the cage. I think that we're going to see a 4 or 5 title fight card when we come back, as long as Fight Island doesn't actually happen, which is still a long shot, a dream I can hold on to. I think we're going to see some stack cards, some we're going to see a ton of stuff. Pay-per-view on Saturday and cards at the Apex on Wednesday and Friday. It's going to be bananas. By the way, another guy that thrown out there that probably benefits, Thiago Santos, healing up knee injury, having a kid. Congrats to him. Another guy I think benefits from no fights for anybody.
Mr. Keith, your rebuttal, my good sir.
Well, I mean, I understand where Riley's saying, and I actually hope it's true that they don't get log jammed. But there's 2 issues with that. One, the UFC hasn't made money for 3 months. Will they have the money to stack up a card, put DC and Conor McGregor, John Jones, Conor McGregor on the same card? I don't know if they're going to have. They're kind of hurting for money right now. But I do got to go with TJ Dillashaw, where people are saying TJ Dillashaw will benefit. I actually don't think he'll benefit. Now, of course, he's sitting out and everyone's sitting out, so it doesn't seem like a suspension. But when he comes back, the logjam at 135, the division he is, has not cleared up. Where if Henry Cejudo and these guys were fighting each other, a couple of these contenders would be out of the way. And now when he returns, you have Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz, 2 guys who don't deserve a title shot. And then also Sterling, Jan, Sandhagen, these guys all might be ahead of him. So it actually might hurt TJ Dillashaw.
And last but not least, Mike Heck.
I'm so glad Keith spoke before me because I couldn't disagree with him more. TJ Dillashaw does benefit from this for multiple reasons. One, and I understand where Keith's coming from, bantamweight, in my opinion, is the deepest division in the UFC. 1 through 15 is great. 15 through 30 is great. And even like 30 to 50 is great. There's guys that are on the come up, the Montel Jacksons of the world. And you look at the top of that division right now. You got the Piotr Jans, you got the Aljamain Sterlings, you got the Corey Sandhagens, you got the Mariases and guys like that. But who gets more of a reaction, positive or negative, than any of those guys? TJ Dillashaw. People hate that guy. They just hate him. And just like in the pro wrestling world, when you have a reaction towards somebody positively or negatively, those are the guys that are going to get pushed. TJ Dillashaw right now is a bigger fight than any of the other challengers right now. He just is. He may not be the guy that's most deserving meritocracy-wise, but in terms of who's going to fill the poster more, it's Dillashaw because people just hate him.
How does him returning in January? How does that change any different than he's going to return in January anyways? So
right,
having all these guys who actually deserve. Having all these guys who actually deserve.
Are you saying the word deserves in MMA, Keith? Are you saying that word? Do you think Jose Aldo deserves a title shot?
No,
it doesn't matter. You left in the whole logjam. I know, spoiler. We're going to talk about it later. But you left out the future champion. I mean, Dominic Cruz.
No, I didn't. I said his name. No, I didn't. I said his name.
I thought Mike missed it in his last. Okay, Keith. Okay, Keith, we get it. You are great. I apologize.
Yeah, look, Keith wins. Keith We're out of here.
All right, so let's move on to our third question. We will try to keep those extracurriculars to a minimum, folks. Trying to maintain order. The third question we have here, a question that Keith absolutely loves, and I'm excited that he gets to go first on this one. So Ronda Rousey is back in the news. There's not a whole lot to talk about. I believe she just did something with Ariel as well, so it piqued my interest. Do we expect to see Ronda Rousey back in the UFC in the next 24 months, and obviously explain, or is she going to maybe go back to the WWE in a full-time stature? What is she angling toward? I feel like you wouldn't be in the news if you weren't angling towards something. So it's got to be something. So, Keith, we'll start with you.
So we haven't had this bad of a question since Mike was hosting. Listen, she hasn't fought in 3 years. She said in January, she's not coming back. She said in January, like 3 months ago, that she has no interest in returning to fighting. She just said this week that she's not going to return to WWE because she's destroying her body for fans that don't appreciate her. Okay, what's the only sports organization with worse fans than WWE fans? MMA. She's talked about MMA fans being terrible. She said to People magazine in December, 4 months ago, that she wants to have a baby. if she has a baby, that right there will take her out for at least 2 years because she'll be pregnant for 9 to 10 months. Then you have a baby, recovering and all that. So listen, then if we ever see Ronda Rousey in an octagon again, it'll be in a movie, not in the UFC. We'll never see her again. It's as stupid as people talk about Dan Hardy's return, which we've been hearing about for 8 years now.
Mr. Sean Ihas.
I agree with Keith, and I'm very upset about it. Yeah, Ronda's done, guys. Like 100%. The most MMA you're going to see from her is she's an actress on that Fox show 911. Like, and there was some backyard MMA there. Like, that's it. She doesn't need the money. She's got other pursuits. She's going to be in movies, TV shows. That's what she's going to do. She could very well have a family. She's done. I don't hate her for it. Again, one of those MMA legacy, and hope she doesn't come back. A terrible idea to come back. You come back to anybody in the top 10 at bantamweight, and Amanda Nunes, and they're going to put on an Amanda Nunes like beating to her. It might take longer than 30 seconds because Nunes is that good, but it's not going to go well for Ronda. Just stay away, and if you think she's going to come back, like, get your head examined. Please go party with John Jones.
We have Mr. Mike Heck.
Yeah, there's no way she's coming back. And for those who are listening to the show, maybe like Keith, that may not be well-versed in the pro wrestling culture, the reaction Ronda Rousey is getting from WWE fans right now, and beyond that, she's salivating right now. This is exactly what she wants. Much like I sort of touched on with the Dillashaw thing, this translates even more so in the pro wrestling world. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you do the people's elbow or the 720 flippy dippy tornado bomb turkey splash. It matters if anyone gives a rat's ass about it. Again, wrestlers get over, based on reaction. If Ronda puts out that statement and nobody reacted, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now, but everybody reacted. So in pro wrestling terminology, even though people are crapping on Ronda for disrespecting the wrestling business, Ronda is over more than she has ever been in the WWE.
All right. So, Mr. Riley.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go off of what Mike just said. I mean, what she did was actually cut a wrestling promo, and she cut a heel wrestling promo. She's doing this on purpose. I think she is planning to probably go back to wrestling and get one more last run in before she does try to start that family, which has kind of been her main point of leaving MMA in the first place. But my question is how are we going to discount someone who is such a good boxer that she was knocking out Olympic caliber boxers in training? I think she should come back tomorrow. I think she should fight Amanda Nunes with one hand tied behind her back. And then when she's done with that, go back to the Olympics and try, her hand at freestyle wrestling.
Barely needed any time there. All right. So, rebuttals are important here. I know I need to probably pick a better question for the third question because we have some ties. Because I've been giving people points as we're going along. So I got to score 4, 3, 2, 1 on this to make sure I don't have any ties going into the next. So rebuttals are important here. Take them serious. Keith was our first one. So, Keith, 45 seconds, my friend.
Listen, she might go back to WWE, but she's definitely not coming back to MMA. I mean, she's already 33 years old. If Riley's right and she does a run in WF, then has a baby, we're talking about 36, 37 years old. I mean, she's not going to return to be a middle of the pack girl. This is a girl that when she lost one time, she was so obsessed with being best one. When she lost, she went on a daytime talk show and talked about that she contemplated suicide. Now, a lot of people will say that, she was just saying that. Her father killed himself, so I don't think she was just saying that. I don't think she would lie about suicide. And as fact as MMA fans,
10 seconds.
You're right. She might be trying to win over WF, but MMA fans are the worst. I mean, Khabib pulls out a fight. The guy's never lost a fight in his life. People are saying he was scared. Rose Namajunas pulled out she had 2 family members died of COVID, and people were trashing her. Still, even after the COVID, I mean, come on, guys. MMA fans can be the worst.
Sean.
Okay, I'm going to translate what Keith said a little bit softer. Ronda doesn't want to come back if she can't be the best, period. I think that's where Keith was going, but we got into a weird suicide discussion. In terms of the whole WWE, I was in it for a while. I kind of back a little in and out. Again, to simplify, there's this weird trend in wrestling now it's cool to know about kayfabe and know, like, kind of blur the lines between what's real and what's fake, and that could be what Ronda's doing and get that big paycheck. Money talks. I hope she gets it. I'd always be a fan of hers, but she's not coming back. Maybe it is kind of that blurring the lines, get one more big paycheck.
Mr. Mike Heck.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Lesnar has had many a storyline where he was positioned in the same way. Even used it as like a negotiation tactic. If Brock Lesnar isn't getting respected by Roman Reigns, Brock's going to fly to Las Vegas and talk to Dana White, and Dana's going to pay him whatever he wants. And Brock was over like Rover, and Ronda is too. So why would she put herself through something like MMA that she fell so quickly out of love with when she can make a lot more money doing a lot less, doing what she loves? You could see the smile on Ronda Rousey's face. Can you remember the last time Ronda Rousey smiled while she was in the UFC? I can't remember that. And now she has more flexibility. Like Keith said, if she does get pregnant and she does have a child, that's always going to be there for her. Whereas fighting, I don't think will ever be there for Ronda the way that pro wrestling will.
And last but not least, Riley.
I like what Sean said. I think what he said that if Ronda can't be the best, she doesn't want to do it. I agree. I don't think she would go back to MMA unless she knew she was going to be the best. But here's the funny thing. She wasn't the best at pro wrestling either. I know she didn't have a lot of time in the ring, but she was fucking awful. Excuse my language. Kind of, there's not a whole lot left I have to say. I think everyone's kind of touched on it. But here's the angle we're missing is that I saw something, and I don't follow WWE that much. There's that one girl, The Rock's cousin, Nia Jax, I think her name is. She sounded like she was legitimately pissed at what Ronda said. And you don't want to piss off a Samoan. I don't care if Ronda Rousey is a UFC veteran and what figuratively one of the best in the world. Nia Jax outweighs her by about 150 pounds. All she has to do is sit on her.
All right, dude, can I get another rebuttal? Come on. You're talking about
shut up, Keith.
Ronda Rousey? Like, really? And then you're talking about how good of a wrestler Hulk Hogan was one of the worst wrestlers ever, and he's probably the biggest star they've ever had.
Every time Keith does an extra rebuttal, I'm just going to make this noise into the mic until Kyle stops him.
Well, the thing is, as the host, I can internalize all of this and figure out. I can. Yeah, don't you worry about it, buddy. I got you. All right. In first place after our 3 questions, we have Sean. In second place, we have Keith. In third place, we have Mike. And last place, we have Riley. I will say, though.
Why am I against Riley every week in this?
I will say, this is, I already really hate hosting this because it is, as Mike can attest, it is next to impossible. So I'm trying to do this thing where I'm like tallying up points as we're going along. It is very, very tough. There was not a single, in my opinion, there was like bad moments, but there was not a single bad answer in the entire show thus far. So thank you guys for being awesome. So Sean, Keith, Mike, Riley. So that means that Sean is going up against Riley and Keith is going up against Mike. So that means one of those two is not making it to the finals. Does
that mean Sean and I have gone up against each other in the playoffs all 3 weeks now?
Yes.
Pretty much.
There it is.
Yeah, all right.
So, and we tend to agree. We're like the two most contrarian people. It makes more sense to put us on opposite sides of the bracket.
I know. I'll take the opposite argument of what you have.
No, I doubt it. And what's really, I kind of missed a chance here. I don't see why you don't split us up and just take out Mike and Keith and have us meet in the finals.
All right. So we got our 4th question here. Again, this is to decide who goes to the finals. 4th question. Sean, you were number 1. So would you like your group to go first or second?
Our group will go first.
Your group will go first. Sean, would you like to go first or second?
I will go second.
All right. So, Riley, the question is to you, my friend. With Aldo officially out of the Cejudo fight, Cruz's name has come up. Again, assuming it happens on the same timeline anyway, but whatever. We're assuming for the sake of argument that it is. Cruz's name has come up. Do you feel that fight is more or less legitimate than the original fight with Aldo? And again, we're talking about Cejudo. Do you feel like that fight is more or less legitimate, and which one excites you more as a UFC fan? 60 seconds for round number 2.
Yeah, so I think it's more legitimate. There's an argument to be made that he had such a long layoff that's not really, a good person to be sticking in there. But I actually think it's more legitimate than Aldo because, Aldo's coming off a recent loss. And if I'm not mistaken, Cruz is coming off a loss as well. You'll have to cite me on that one. But here's the thing. Cruz was the most dominant bantamweight champion of all time in the UFC. I think that's the reason he has more of the air of legitimacy. And I actually think he's a better stylistic matchup to Henry Cejudo than Jose Aldo. If you were to have me pick that fight right now, I would actually take Dominic Cruz. It would be a close fight in my opinion, but I actually think he beats Cejudo. So I'm more excited about that fight. I'm more interested in that fight. And I think there's more legitimacy to that fight than any fight that Jose Aldo would be put in against Cejudo.
Doesn't even need all of his time. I like the confidence. Sean, same question to you, 60 seconds.
Neither fight is probably legitimate, but as Mike referenced earlier in the show, what's fair in MMA? Nothing is. Is it more legitimate than Aldo? Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Jose Aldo is 2-4 in his last 6, 3-5 in his last 8. He lost to Marlon Moraes. He's been fighting at featherweight. We're going to give him a title shot? Henry Cejudo was looking for an easy title retention, in my opinion, and he's getting caught here. And I hope this fight happens, and I hope eventually Cejudo doesn't get the fight he wants in Aldo. Cruz lost to Cody Garbrandt last time out. Before that, 13 straight wins, including 2 wins against Joseph Benavidez, who Henry Cejudo has lost to. I think Cruz is a better stylistic matchup. I do think he wins the fight. It's the layoff that is concerning. If Cruz doesn't come in, where he should be or anywhere near what he was, he's going to come in a step down. But if he's not near that top level, Cejudo will probably beat him. We got to listen to more freaking Triple C. But Cruz over Aldo all day.
Riley, you get 60-second rebuttal, my friend.
I don't think I'm going to need 60 seconds, especially since, again, Sean and I have agreed on our playoff question here. I'm going to run it at a different angle as well. I think Cruz is actually more marketable in terms of trying to sell pay-per-views than Jose Aldo at this point. Cruz is a guy that you actually see on UFC broadcasts all the time because he is an analyst and he is in front of the camera a lot. And Aldo is very marketable in Brazil. And I'm not saying he's not marketable in the United States, but if you're going to put 2 guys up, which has a bigger pay-per-view market, the United States or Brazil? The answer is the United States. And who has more marketability in the United States, Dominic Cruz or Jose Aldo? Dominic Cruz, hands down, especially when you consider the fact that he is on Fox all the time. Fox, Jesus, what year am I in? ESPN doing analyst work.
Sean?
Yeah, in terms of trying to not just in terms of what one person is going to be attractive to the audience, which matchup, which guys are going to make for better pressers. You're going to have Cejudo blowing out Jose Aldo because he knows the guy doesn't deserve a title shot, or him and Dominic Cruz going back and forth at each other. That's going to be fun because Cruz will take Cejudo's words, at least in the pressers, and shove him down his friggin' throat. There's no way Cejudo and his cringe act can keep up with Dominic Cruz there. God, I'm just so ready to see Cejudo get his ass beat. And I was on the guy's team for so long. The cringe went from being it's cool to cringe, and I like it. He's making people angry. Now he's actually legitimately under my skin because he's got to find the happy medium, and he can't do it. Dominic Cruz is better to play off that. Jose Aldo, look, man, I'm sorry. It's done. It's done for you. Great career, Hall of Famer, not the spot.
All right. Good job. You guys are right. We do need to try to split you up because those are very, very similar answers. So I do think one person answered the question more fully, and I'll get to that, obviously, when we get there. All right, so for this one, Keith, do you want to go first or second?
Mike can go first.
All right, Mike goes first. Mike, do you want me to repeat the question, or do you got it?
I think I'm good.
All right, 60 seconds on the clock, my friend.
All right, well, one thing we got to get out of the way is the only reason Jose Aldo got this freaking fight is because it was going to take place at UFC 250 in Brazil. That's the only reason why. That's the whole last hurrah. It's the last time Aldo's going to get a title shot. Could he get the job done? With that being said, I like the Cruz idea a million times better. Yes, Dominic Cruz, like Riley said, he is coming off that loss to Cody Garbrandt 3 years and change ago. But before that, Dominic Cruz, like Sean said, had a 13-fight winning streak. He won the title back against TJ Dillashaw in Boston earlier that year in 2016, dominated Uriah Faber, and he lost to Garbrandt. From there, it gets a bit tricky because he's had some freak injuries since then. He's had his fair share throughout his career, but let's look at it from all angles, right, Keith? Yeah, Petr Yan, who has a super bright future. I think he needs one more big win. Jimmy Rivera's a nice win. Faber's a nice win. But Moraes, that would be the win to actually get him there. Sterling is hurt, recovering nicely, but he's still hurt. And Sandhagen could be that wild card, that quiet killer that looms in this division, but he's not there in terms of, man, we have to see that guy fight for the title. The rest, I will save for after Keith's answer.
Keith.
All right, so first of all, I think both fights absolutely suck. Neither one should be made. I just want to put that out there. Listen, as you guys know, I'm a purist. I think the guy who deserves the fight should get it, either an Aljamain Sterling or Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen, all the people that say Mike said. That said, I don't want to see either guy coming off a loss get a title shot. And Jose Aldo has lost 2 in a row. Now, if I have to pick someone, I will agree with what Sean says. I will go Dominic Cruz just for talking. But I'm not going to be like Sean O'Reilly and pretend that Dominic Cruz deserves his shot. He hasn't fought in nearly 3.5 years. Last time we saw him, he got absolutely trashed by Garbrandt, who's been smoked every single time since. The guy has fought 4 times in 9 years. His last win was 4 years ago. Since his last win, we've seen guys like Michael Bisping and Brock Lesnar get their hands raised. Since his last win, Donald Cerrone, look it up, look this up. Donald Cerrone, since Dominic Cruz's last win, has fought in the UFC 14 times. It's absolutely crazy for people to be calling for him to get a title shot.
Mike Heck, you get your 60-second rebuttal, my friend.
Again, why do we keep using the D word? Deserves. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Cruz has the lineage. Cruz has the legacy at 135 pounds. The diehards like Dominic Cruz. The ones who are casuals know who he is, like these other gentlemen talked about because of his work on the broadcast. Aldo, 0-1 at 135. Cruz coming back to 3+ years and fighting for a title. Remember how big of a story it was when he came back less than 18 months after he beat Mitsugaki and finished him in the first round. That was this great moment. I was in Boston when that happened. That was incredible. Imagine the moment if Dominic Cruz were to fight Henry Cejudo, beat the cringiest guy in the sport. What a moment that would be. It would be one of the most memorable things that ever happened in MMA. It's the biggest fight you can make at 135 pounds for the title right now. There's no other fight that is bigger than putting Dominic Cruz in that spot right now. There just isn't.
Keith, you got your 60 seconds, my friend.
Well, I agree with him that Dominic Cruz, of the 2 people, I would go with Dominic Cruz. But, look at Mike. He's exaggerating the story. Yeah, it was such a big story that he beat Mitsugaki that it was buried on the undercard of a fight night, okay? The pay-per-view, Dominic Cruz is such a big star. He's never headlined a UFC pay-per-view ever. Stop making like he's some big star that And I'm gonna honestly, I've already beat Mike, so I'm gonna go to Riley. Riley's saying, "Oh, he should get a shot because he's the most dominant bantamweight ever." BJ Penn might be the most dominant lightweight ever. Should we throw him in? I don't know. The last time he won a fight was about the same time Dominic Cruz did. Guys, stop. And I want to say one more thing to Mike, because I already beat him, but I want to throw that the extra punch. He said the only reason Jose Aldo got this fight because UFC 250 was in Brazil. That is not true. Dana White, after Jose Aldo fought Marlon Rice, he said in that press conference that he wanted to make the Cejudo fight. They didn't have UFC 250 booked. They didn't have anything close to that. So that is not true. So, Mike, listen, you can take that not true shit over to MMA fighting where that's allowed. But we fact check shit at this place, brother. So go back to those amateurs.
No, hang on.
Jose Young and Casey and all those guys.
Hold on. Let me control. Hold on. Let me take hold.
I'm just joking.
Let me take hold.
I just have to say one thing.
All right, Mike, you go first.
A person who uses the word deserves 7 or 8 times throughout the round and throughout the game, plus a guy who said, because Dana White said ... has no business being in the finals of any debate show ever in MMA.
All right, Keith, don't respond. You blasted everybody, so they get a chance. Riley, you got blasted. I'll give you a chance. This is all meaningless. We're just wasting time, but whatever. Riley, you can respond.
That was me getting blasted? That was pathetic. Jesus Christ, Keith.
I like that you left it at that. All right, Keith, you already had your shot. Did you get blasted too, Sean? All right, Sean, you can say whatever you got to say.
I didn't, but I have a perfect dig, and I have to take it. Because speaking of fact-checking, Dominic Cruz never headlined a pay-per-view. UFC 132, Cruz versus Faber, 350,000 pay-per-view buys.
Oh.
All right, Keith, see you later.
Anyway.
I didn't mention the Mitsugaki fight. I said winning the belt after the Mitsugaki fight, around 18 or so months later. Not the Mitsugaki comeback. I'm talking about the title comeback.
This show is so hard to control. It's wild.
I love this show.
It is so hard to control. Everyone is all fired up. All right, so I'll pick the winners here. Again, this really sucks. I don't like doing this, but it is what it is. Both basically for the same reason. They answered the question, I think, more fully, and kind of stuck to the nature of the question. A lot of these questions here and moving forward, they're hypotheticals. You kind of have to exist in that hypothetical space to answer it properly. So that's where we're at. So Sean Ihaz, you got the win for the first. Riley, you are the man. It was very, very close. I appreciate you, sir. You're welcome to stay on the call, or you can leave. It doesn't matter to me.
I will say this on my way out. When I leave, come together like butt cheeks.
I don't know what that means, but we'll take it. And for Keith and Mike Heck, sir, you're advancing to the finals for the same reason that I outlined before. I'm not looking forward to the text messages, the Discord messages, the Facebook messages, the letters, the phone calls.
All right, I'm going to get out of here.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Listen, everyone knows I absolutely smoked him, dude. I was bringing up facts and stuff. He was talking about whatever. Honestly, my Donald Cerrone line alone should have got me in the finals. But listen,
the only
Kyle,
thing you got right.
Listen, Kyle. No, I had the Brock Lesnar and the Michael Bisping line. They literally have won since Dominic Cruz won. That was a good line too. But yeah, listen, we all knew you have this love affair from Mike. You've been doing it forever. We knew you put him in the finals. But listen, this is the worst decision since I ordered takeout from the Wuhan market. How about that?
I'll see you, Keith. Oh, gosh. I love that Keith actually thought that he won that by literally not answering the question.
I know.
He answered the question. He spent 3 seconds answering the question. I think the Dominic Cruz fight would be better or more exciting or whatever, and then spent 55 seconds saying why he wouldn't do that. It's like, well, that completely defeats the purpose. Like, again, you have to exist in that hypothetical space. So, Keith, if you're listening, this has nothing to do with the love affair. In fact, I'm very proud of myself because I have kept somehow completely. Listen, if I was being what's the word I'm looking for?
Biased.
Riley would be winning this shit. Just FYI. Riley's my favorite person on the panel. So if I was biased, that dude's winning the show. Just FYI.
You know who's smiling right now is Patrick, because that's the same thing Keith did last week, and he advanced.
Right. Well, last week, I don't know if I noticed it as much. But I think the more you go into the hosting, the more you start catching that people are gaslighting or whatever it is, and you start kind of picking up on it. So, but listen, I still enjoy Keith's answer, and he had some good lines in there. But ultimately, it's about answering the question. So, all right, for this one, we'll go the Mike Heck method here. Sean, pick a number between 1 and 10.
2.
Excuse me, Mike.
I'll play it safe and say 3.
Listen, Mike is closer there because by the nature of picking a low number, as long as it's not 1, you win. So as long as it's not 1 or 2, you win. All right, so Mike, you will get to. Do you want to go first or do you want to go second?
You can go first.
All right, so you get a minute and a half for this round, and this is our last question here for the finals.
Are there rebuttals in this round as well?
Yeah, rebuttals in this one as well, automatic. I might even do a third rebuttal depending. We're good on time, so we can do that if we need to. All right. Should the UFC try to book Tony and Khabib next or move forward with Tony Justin Gaethje on a full camp? That fight did excite a lot of people. Should they move forward with that now that it has been teased? Also, does McGregor fit into this picture? Maybe fighting the one who gets left out or something along those lines. And yeah, I guess what would you rather see? I think I know the answer. It's a pretty easy answer, but kind of focus more on maybe how McGregor kind of fits into the picture and maybe what the UFC wants as opposed to that. So that'd be the only guidance I'll give you, or the answers will be probably exactly the same. So who was going first? Sean, you're going first in this one. Sean, you get 90 seconds, my friend, and the time starts now.
See, that last bit is why this is not that easy of a question. Because the easy thing is, yeah, Tony Khabib, run it back. Although with pandemics and buses being splattered into and Tony tripping over cables, I had second row seats to I think it was 223 in Brooklyn when it ended up being Khabib and Iaquinta, and I'm still sour about it. Like, that fight is just cursed, but you still have to try and do it. It is the fight to make. But We have McGregor coming back. How does he fit in? He's only going to fight in a main event. We're going to have this logjam. We got people everywhere. So what do we do? What do I think we should do? What I've been trying. He's not even listening. Kyle has his headphones off. You got to hear my brilliance, sir. How dare you? Anyway, what do I think we do? Something I've wanted to see in the UFC forever. Give me a tournament at lightweight. And this is how we can pull this off. Same card. We have the number 1 seed, the champion, Khabib Nurmagomedov, taking on the 4 seed, because he's been off, in a rematch, Conor McGregor. And then I get Tony, the 2 seed, versus Gaethje, the 3 seed. So I'll pay $120 for that card. Sign me up. You make money. All 4 guys are in the mix. You don't got to worry about Conor's ego. That's what I think we should do here. This is prime for a lightweight tournament. Have the semis on the same night, and then further down on the road, not a Grand Prix. Let me be clear about that. But I think that's how you kind of mitigate this whole situation we've wound up here. We still get Tony Gaethje. We get the Khabib rematch. No one's feeling butthurt because Tony and Gaethje are just going to fight, and the egos will take care of themselves. God, I am really excited. I want to pay money for that card now.
And Mr. Mike Heck, 90 seconds on the clock.
I agree that this is a tougher question than it looks on paper, because you have to look at where these guys are at physically and financially. Like Khabib, we talked about this earlier. He came out and said he's thinking September he wants to come back. That's 5 months from now. And despite what a lot of people think, I believe things are going to be back up and running for the UFC in the next 2 months, at the absolute latest, early July. Does Tony Ferguson, after spending all this time preparing for this fight, does he want to wait until September to fight? Does Justin Gaethje want to wait till September, or maybe even later with the Logjam 155 to fight? Both Ferguson and Gaethje are in the good graces of the UFC right now, and if they can rebook this fight for June or July between Ferguson and Gaethje, I think the UFC is going to try to do it. Now, does Conor play a factor? Of course Conor plays a factor. He plays a factor everywhere, at a 55 and at 170 right now. But if they can make it happen, it makes way too much sense right now to do Tony versus Gaethje. And then if you can do it, Conor versus Nate 3. With all these questions, there's a million what ifs and intangibles in play. But if you're asking me on April 13th in the year of our Lord 2020 right now, today, what I think happens, I think we get what was already planned just a couple months later. If Khabib needs until September, let's give him till September. Let's get him excited to fight.
All right. Sean, I assume you would like a rebuttal?
I would, because I see a hole in Mike's argument here, and it's not that I don't agree that the fights make sense and financially it's got to line up, but then that Tony Justin fight is going to be a war. We're not going to get you didn't leave. What's Khabib going to do? September? No, all those guys fight. He doesn't have a fight until November, December. Like, you can't have him sitting out that long. He's going to fight Dan Hooker. Sorry, it's not there. It has to be, and I don't think it's Dustin Poirier. We saw that. It's got to be Ferguson, McGregor, Gaethje. And the scenario you just laid out ties up all those guys. We need Khabib back. You have to mix him in. Now, if he's not a factor for whatever reason, he's not going to fight till November, December, or he gets hurt, then I think your solution makes sense. But if it's September, you might have to push back a little bit, or maybe I'll concede that he's dead set on that. You don't do it all in one night, but you still announce this lightweight bracket, and Tony and Gaethje are going to kick us off in July in the first round, and then Ferguson and then Khabib and McGregor will have their first round matchup. And once McGregor loses that, then he can go fight Diaz for the third time.
Mr. Heck.
Yeah, but that's saying that Khabib versus Conor would take place 3 months after your first opening round matchup, which would never happen. Plus, Khabib doesn't seem to have any interest in fighting Conor McGregor right now. They've said it perfectly, and I know words and all this shit comes flying out, and money talks more than anything else. But they're very convinced that unless Conor McGregor beats a Justin Gaethje, Khabib's not giving him that fight. Khabib smashed Conor McGregor, wrecked him. And I understand Conor McGregor's the biggest star in the sport. I understand he was injured and all this other shit. He was drinking heading into the fight. But nobody really wants to see that right now. People will buy it and watch it just to see if Conor could pull off the impossible. But most people think that Khabib does the same exact thing in that fight. Like, I mean, how can you not think that way after how that first fight went? Yeah, he went in there and starched Cerrone. But at the same time, we need guys available. We need to book the biggest fights as quickly as possible and make that happen. If Khabib has to wait till October to fight the winner of that fight, especially if Ferguson wins, isn't Khabib versus Ferguson even bigger now? I know you were going to take the risk anyways, but Why risk it? Just risk it again and do it correctly. Give Khabib ample time to get ready. Give the winner of Ferguson Gaethje ample time to get ready. Those are the fights you should make. Those are the top 2 contenders right now. Let's let those 2 fight it out, and we'll see what happens. Conor can fight anybody right now, and it's going to do 1 million plus pay-per-view buys. So there's no need to rush Conor into a fight with Khabib. And what if he gets crushed again? He loses some of that allure. You got to think about it in a long-term business sense. Like, it goes from 1.5 million pay-per-views to like 750,000 pay-per-views. Especially if he gets wrecked by Khabib. What are you going to do now? Like, you just wait on that. Let him build and build and build. And then if that fight's there 1.5 years, 2 years from now, then it's going to be massive. But there's no need to rush Conor Khabib 2 right now, even though it'll do well. But there's no need to do that, especially if he's going to get hammered again, which most people think he will.
With Mike's time overage, Sean, I'll give you another 30 seconds if you'd like it.
Conor is like Chael at this point. A loss ain't going to do nothing. People are going to want to see him. I don't think it hurts the legacy. We're still going to tune in. He's transcended MMA in that way. And if Khabib is going to hold up this lightweight Grand Prix or hold up probably still the most stacked division in the UFC, you know what? I got no problem saying it. Strip him. I'm done. I don't. You want to hold up the division?
10 seconds.
Look, he's 20, whatever it was, 23-0. He got there. Yeah, so now you got to do things my way. No, it's not your show. It's Dana White's show. You're not going to play by the rules. The belt is gone. I got no problem with that.
Play by the rules? What are you talking about?
Dana White's rules. Dana
There's
White,
a
the money.
Pandemic going on.
Money. When they come back, we're talking when they come back. Oh, everybody's ready. UFC's desperate for money. Yeah, but it's June. I'm not going to fight until September, and I won't fight this guy.
Khabib's done this his whole career, though. His whole career. He doesn't fight during Ramadan. Then he wants a full camp after he finishes his fast.
Money's not going to be hurting like it is now.
Even when there's 2 people, I can't control this goddamn show. It's
that's
impossible.
Nonsense.
It's
That's
impossible.
just nonsense.
All right, so very, very good round. I enjoyed it. I will say, I did miss hearing Keith scream in my ear for the last 5 minutes. So that's rough. I got to start pushing him into the finals no matter what, because that was this was too calm. Mike got his voice got an octave up, but it wasn't too bad. Not bad enough for the accent to start really kicking in. Yeah, good answers. I really enjoyed it. The winner of episode 3 of Last One Standing is going to go to Mike Heck. Mike, I appreciate you. Sean, I do love the lightweight tourney. It's just logistically, I guess I'm more with Mike there. There are some
always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Another runner-up. Finish with Kyle Steele here.
There are some logistical issues, and I think Mike did a good job at outlaying.
Screw the logistics. Give me blood.
Outline. So, Sean, tell us once again where we can find you.
Oh, congratulations to Mike. It was fun, even though you only had me on once in your iteration of this show. It was still good to talk to you, and you and everyone else should follow me on Twitter at @sniper_DFS. We'll talk DraftKings, MMA, soccer, all the stuff I love. And I actually had a civil conversation with somebody on Twitter today. You're allowed to disagree, guys. You should be nice to each other.
Good job, Sean. I like it. Mike, in per the normal rules, you can tell us where to find you, but then hit us up with 30 seconds of give us a short what the heck. How about that?
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at MikeHeck_JR. One thing I do want to say, especially I know there's a lot of people against the MMA media right now, and they put us all under the same umbrella because there are some negative people out there. But this is a tough time for us, too. I just started this job, but honestly, you've seen the reports by now. You've read CNBC and all this stuff. I don't know where my future lies at this point in the next week or so. I have no idea. Neither does anybody else covering the sport full time. So when you see articles come out on websites and you're wondering oh, that's the best they can do right now with nothing going on. Yeah, it might be the best we could do right now. But I know in terms of what I'm going to try to bring to the table, I'm going to try to bring whatever I can to make things positive, fun, and interesting. And make sure you check out my new show called What the Heck on MMAfighting.com, lining up the guests as we speak. And it's going to be a pretty fun show.
Listen,
I will look for the email.
That was me in Discord when I posted the questions, getting everyone criticizing him, going, dude, nothing's happening, guys. What do you want me to talk about? I thought ultimately it was a good show. So you're welcome. It's tough, man. There's nothing going on. Everyone's just doing their best. I think the only thing that I've been upset with the media about is just the sites that are focusing on pure negativity. I think that is just getting old. I get it. There's not a lot to talk about, and there is a lot of negative about it, and I completely agree. But ultimately, let's not go out of our way to create a bad image for the sport by having this self-fulfilling prophecy where you keep saying bad, and then go, see, everyone thinks we're bad. Well, shut up, and maybe everybody won't think we're bad. Like, just leave it be, That's really my only gripe, but I also get it. I'm not talking shit. I don't hate the media. It is what it is.
I do want to add one more thing to that.
Yeah, please.
I know Trent's name was brought up a couple of times, but Kevin Iole too. I mean, really, I'm still trying to find.
You also have female Trent as well.
I'm still trying to find where someone actually celebrated UFC 249 being canceled. I'm still waiting for that. I'm still waiting for the celebratory tweets. Yay, UFC 249's canceled. Now the fighters aren't going to make any money. I'm still waiting for that. And I think it's embarrassing for Mr. Iole to write an article like that saying that people were celebrating 249 being canceled. That is a bunch of bullshit. Sorry.
The whole media thing is too bad Keith's off. It's similar to there are good cops and there are bad cops. There are good journalists and there are bad journalists. If you see a bad one, I got no problem going after him, but shouldn't lump everybody in because there are plenty of people doing good work, and it is tough right now. And Kyle, good luck with the questions next week.
I know, God. I'm not looking forward to it, but we'll wrap this show up that way we don't have a bunch of extracurriculars here, guys. Again, it was an absolute blast. This was such a close show. I really, really enjoy hosting this and absolutely hate it all at the same time. So I might pull a Mike Heck and start having a guest judge to get towards the end of it. I get why you did it, Mike. I'm with you. All right, guys. Yeah. It was a pleasure. Podcasting world. Thank you for tuning in.